In this video, we're diving deep into the ancient and mysterious world of primordial deities and personifications, the beings who existed before time, who embodied the very essence of life, death, chaos, and everything in between. Chronos emerges as the personification of hardship and toil. Born to the goddess Erebus, who herself symbolizes strife, Chronos is one of her many children, each embodying different aspects of human suffering. Unlike the more prominent gods who bask in the light of Olympus, Chronos dwells in the mundane, often unnoticed, yet ever present in the lives of mortals. His influence is felt in the weariness that follows a day of labor, in the burdens that weigh down the soul, and in the relentless effort required to achieve even the smallest victories. Chronos does not possess the grandeur of Zeus or the cunning of Hermes, but his presence is just as potent, if not more so, because he touches all who strive, regardless of status or strength. In the shadowed recesses of Greek mythology, Giaia emerges as the personification of lies and deceit, a figure who embodies the falsehoods that twist the truth and manipulate perception. Unlike the grand gods of Olympus, Giaia is not worshipped or revered, but rather feared for the subtle and pervasive influence she exerts on the mortal and divine alike. She is one of the dark offspring of Erebus. Giaia's influence is felt in the whispers of treachery that lead heroes astray, the false promises that bind gods to oaths they cannot keep, and the deception that can turn friend against friend. Though not a physical being that one could encounter, Giaia's power is experienced through the actions of those who succumb to dishonesty. In the tales of myth, the consequences of her influence are profound, often leading to tragedy and discord. The Phonoi lurked as male personifications of murder and slaughter. Born from Erebus, the goddess of strife and discord, the Phonoi were not gods to be worshipped but embodiments of the violent end that could befall any mortal. They represented the bloodshed of war, the blade in the night, and the wrathful hand raised against another. Their presence was a constant reminder of the fragility of life and the ease with which it could be extinguished. In Greek myths, they were often seen in the wake of Ares, the god of war, feasting on the carnage left behind on the battlefield, or stalking the footsteps of those who had committed heinous crimes, ensuring that the blood they had spilled would taint their souls. The Phonoi were not bound by the same moral codes as men or gods. They operated outside the laws of Olympus, driven by the pure, destructive force of murder itself. Ancient Greeks viewed them as an inevitable part of life's cycle, just as death and fate were inescapable. The Phonoi were the whispers in the ears of those who harbored hatred, the cold touch felt by those who took another's life, and the relentless guilt that plagued the murderer. In the dimly lit corners of the ancient Greek pantheon, where the more malevolent forces of human nature were given form, the Giaia, personifications of quarrels, lurked in the shadows. Born from Erebus, the goddess of strife, the Giaia were not singular beings, but rather a multitude of spirits, each embodying different aspects of discord. They thrived in the cracks of human interactions, sowing seeds of conflict and misunderstanding wherever they went. Whether it was a petty disagreement between neighbors or a full-blown feud that could tear families and cities apart, the Giaia were the unseen catalysts, fanning the flames of animosity and division. Their influence was subtle yet pervasive, creeping into the hearts of men and women alike, twisting words and intentions until even the most trivial matters could spark bitter disputes. The ancient Greeks believed that the Giaia were ever present, lingering at the edges of all social interactions, ready to strike at moments of weakness or pride. The mythxHunter were the personifications of battle and combat. These fierce spirits, often depicted as numerous and relentless, embodied the chaotic and destructive nature of warfare. Unlike the Olympian gods, the mythxHunter were not individuals but rather a collective force, representing the brutal reality of conflict that touched the lives of both mortals and gods alike. They were closely associated with the bloodshed and violence of war, appearing on the battlefield to spur on the frenzy of fighting and to revel in the carnage. In this way, the mythxHunter symbolized not just the physical clash of warriors, but the psychological and emotional turmoil that came with it, driving men to acts of bravery or madness as they confronted their enemies. The mythxHunter were often depicted in the company of other war-related deities, such as Ares, the god of war, and Eris, the goddess of strife, further emphasizing their role in the pantheon as forces of conflict and discord. Their presence in Greek mythology served as a reminder of the ever-present dangers of war and the inevitability of conflict in human life. While the gods of Olympus might seek to maintain order and justice, the mythai represented the darker, more chaotic aspects of existence, where survival often depended on strength, cunning, and the willingness to engage in battle. In the shadowy realms of Greek mythology, the logoi emerged as the personifications of stories, fables, and even lies. Born from Eris, the goddess of discord, these beings embodied the twisting tales that could both captivate and deceive. While the word logoi can simply mean stories, in the context of their mythological origin, it carries a darker undertone, one of deception and chaos. As children of Eris, the logoi were not the pleasant tales of heroism and virtue, but rather the insidious narratives that could sow discord among gods and mortals alike. These personifications were the whispers that fueled misunderstandings and the fables that, while entertaining, led astray those who listened too closely. Just as Eris delighted in setting friend against friend, the logoi thrived on the power of words to mislead. Their influence was felt in the falsehoods that spread like wildfire, and in the tales that, though beautiful, masked darker truths. In this way, the logoi were both creators and destroyers, spinning stories that could charm or corrupt, depending on the listener's heart and mind. In the barren lands where sustenance was scarce, the Greeks personified the dread of famine as limos, the embodiment of starvation. Limos was a haunting figure, representing the gnawing emptiness that devoured both body and spirit. Her domain was the desolate, withered fields where crops failed and the earth offered no yield, leaving mortals to wither away in desperation. Unlike the nurturing warmth of Demeter, the goddess of grain and the harvest, Limos thrived in desolation, her presence a stark reminder of the fragility of life. The poet Ovid captured the tension between these forces, noting that Limos and Demeter could never meet, for where one brought abundance, the other sowed despair. In the shadowy realm of the underworld, where the souls of the departed journeyed after death, there flowed a river known as Lethe, the personification of forgetfulness. This river, one of the 5 that coursed through Hades' domain, held a unique and profound power. According to ancient Greek mythology, the waters of Lethe had the ability to erase the memories of those who drank from it. The souls of the dead, weary from the trials of their mortal lives, would sip from its waters to forget their earthly experiences and pains, thus preparing them for their new existence in the afterlife. This act of forgetfulness was not merely a loss but a necessary step in the soul's transition, allowing it to leave behind the burdens of the past and find peace in the endless, quiet rest of the underworld. The river Lethe was not just a passive stream but was closely tied to the goddess Lethe, who embodied the concept of forgetfulness itself. She was often depicted as a figure who gently guided the souls of the dead to drink from her waters, ensuring that their memories would fade away. In the rich tapestry of Greek mythology, the Hysmeni were the fierce personifications of fighting and conflict. Born from the chaos of battle, they were the daughters of Eris, the goddess of strife, who herself was a progeny of Nyx, the embodiment of night. These demons were not just the embodiment of physical combat, but also the turmoil and destruction that accompanied war. Their presence was felt on the battlefield, where their essence manifested in every clash of swords and cry of agony. Some traditions also trace their lineage to Ether and Gaia, suggesting that the very fabric of the cosmos bore these harbingers of conflict, intertwining them with both the heavens and the earth. The Hysmeni were vividly depicted by Quintus Smyrnaeus in the epic scenes on the shield of Achilles, a powerful warrior of the Trojan War. Alongside other fearsome deities of war, they surged forth in the chaos of battle, embodying the relentless and often senseless violence that defined the era's wars. Their presence on Achilles' shield was symbolic, serving as a reminder of the inevitable strife that accompanies glory and heroism. A being existed as a powerful force known as Horkos. Born from Eris, the goddess of discord and strife, Horkos was not a deity to be worshipped, but a demon to be feared. His very name, meaning oath, struck dread into the hearts of those who dared to speak with a forked tongue. Chronos was the embodiment of the curse that would descend upon any who swore a false oath, a living reminder that the words of mortals were bound by the will of the gods. As the personification of divine retribution, Chronos ensured that no deceit would go unpunished, weaving a web of consequences that ensnared liars in their own treachery. Those who invoked an oath in the name of the gods did so with the knowledge that Chronos was ever watchful, ready to enforce the sacred bonds of truth. He moved silently among men, unseen but always present, his influence felt in every solemn vow and binding promise. In the shadowy recesses of Greek mythology, dysnomia emerged as the dark personification of lawlessness, embodying the chaotic force that defied the order imposed by law and civilization. As a demon, she was the embodiment of anarchy and disorder, thriving where justice and governance faltered. Dysnomia was not as prominent as other mythological figures, yet her presence was felt in the turmoil that accompanied societal collapse, rebellion, and the breakdown of moral codes. She stood as a stark contrast to Eunomia, the goddess of law and order, reflecting the delicate balance between structured governance and the ever-present threat of chaos. Dysnomia's influence could be seen in the erosion of laws, the corruption of leaders, and the rise of civil unrest, where her spirit roamed free in the hearts of those who rejected the constraints of society. Dysnomia was often depicted as a shadowy, elusive figure, her form shrouded in darkness, symbolizing the obscurity and unpredictability of lawlessness. Though not widely worshipped or depicted in ancient art, her presence was a reminder of the dangers that lurked beyond the boundaries of lawful society. In literature, she was mentioned briefly by Hesiod in his Theogony, where she was listed among the offspring of Erebus, the goddess of strife and discord. In the ancient lore of Greek mythology, Ati embodied ruin itself, a force both subtle and devastating. Born from Erebus, the goddess of strife and discord, Ati personified mischief, delusion, and blind folly. With her whispers, she lured mortals into reckless impulses and rash actions, steering them down the inescapable path to destruction. Her influence was insidious, planting the seeds of chaos deep within the hearts of men, driving them to act without foresight, led by passion rather than reason. Ati's presence echoed in the tragic downfall of great heroes and the collapse of once mighty kingdoms, as she skillfully wove ruin into their destinies with the cunning of a trickster and the relentless certainty of fate. Ati did not limit her chaos to mortals alone. Even the gods were not immune to her influence. Her most infamous act was deceiving Zeus himself, the king of the gods, into making a rash oath that led to the hero Heracles' suffering. Banished from Olympus for her treachery, Ati wandered the earth, continuing her work of destruction, leaving disaster in her wake. In the shadowed corners of ancient Greek mythology, Androctacia lurked, embodiments of the violent act of manslaughter. They were not individuals but personifications, terrifying spirits that haunted the aftermath of battle, where men met brutal ends at the hands of others. The Androctacia were the daughters of Erebus, the goddess of strife and discord, whose progeny included a host of other malevolent forces. These sinister sisters thrived on the chaos of war, reveling in the bloodshed and the devastation left in the wake of human conflict. Their presence was felt on the battlefield, where they eagerly claimed the lives of fallen warriors, their cold touch a reminder of the grim reality of mortality. In the tales whispered by the ancients, the Androctacia were depicted as relentless and merciless, driven by an insatiable hunger for death. They were not honored or worshipped like the gods, for their nature was too dark and dreadful. Instead, they were feared, their name evoking the horror of untimely death and the senseless violence that could strike at any moment. Amphilogia, the shadowy embodiment of disputes, thrived in the chaotic atmosphere of ancient Greece, where conflicts among gods and mortals were common. Born from the goddess Eris, who symbolized strife, Amphilogia represented the more intricate and lingering quarrels that could fester into larger conflicts. Unlike the loud and brash quarrels depicted in myth, Amphilogia was more subtle, whispering in the ears of those on the brink of discord, urging them to persist in their grievances. She moved through the world like a lingering echo, ensuring that disputes, once ignited, would smolder indefinitely, potentially consuming entire households or cities in unresolved tensions. In mythological tales, Amphilogia did not have a singular appearance, instead often being depicted as a dark, amorphous cloud that could insinuate itself into the minds of both gods and mortals. Her presence was both feared and inevitable, for where there were beings capable of reason and emotion, disputes would naturally arise. Algos, the somber deity representing pain, was one of the children of Erebus, born from the darkness that accompanied her. Algos was not limited to physical suffering, but also encompassed the mental and emotional pains that could haunt mortals and gods alike. This deity's presence was felt in every corner of the human experience, from the sting of a wound to the ache of a broken heart or the anguish of unfulfilled desires. Algos was often depicted as a mournful figure, draped in dark robes, with an expression of deep sorrow etched across a pale, spectral face, embodying the inescapable nature of pain in life. In Greek mythology, Algos did not discriminate between the great and the humble. All who lived were bound to encounter this personification at some point. However, the presence of Algos also served as a catalyst for resilience and endurance. The suffering brought by Algos was an inevitable aspect of existence, reminding mortals of their fragility and prompting them to seek out strength and comfort in their gods and communities. In this way, Algos was both a curse and a teacher, imparting the harsh lesson that pain, while unavoidable, could lead to growth and a deeper understanding of life's complexities. Sophrosyne was the embodiment of moderation, self-control, and temperance, virtues highly esteemed in ancient Greek culture. She was often depicted as a serene and graceful figure, exuding a calm that could bring balance to both the internal and external worlds of mortals and gods. Sophrosyne's influence was most potent in the realm of human behavior, where she guided individuals to live in harmony with themselves and others by avoiding excesses and maintaining a balanced life. Her presence was seen as essential to achieving eudaimonia, the flourishing life that the Greeks aspired to. In mythology, Sophrosyne was a guardian of the moral order, representing the ideal state of mind that allowed one to resist temptations and excesses. Her influence extended to all aspects of life, including desires, emotions, and even thoughts. By embodying moderation, she provided a counterbalance to the more chaotic forces embodied by other deities like Erebus and Dionysus. Phylides embodies the tender and intimate bonds that tie beings together, representing affection, friendship, and sexual intercourse in Greek mythology. As a lesser-known deity, Phylides plays a crucial role in the daily lives of both mortals and gods, fostering connections that range from the platonic to the deeply passionate. Her presence is felt in the warmth of companionship, the trust of a true friend, and the deep physical and emotional union found in sexual relationships. She is often depicted as a gentle, benevolent force, her influence nurturing the softer, more harmonious aspects of human interaction. In the shadowy realms of the far west, near the gates of the underworld, dwelled the Oneiroi, the personifications of dreams in Greek mythology. These mysterious beings were the sons of Hypnos, the god of sleep, and they lived in a dark, silent cave where no light ever penetrated. This was the place from which all dreams emerged, each with its distinct nature and purpose. Among them were Morpheus, Phobter, also known as Eiklos, and Phantasos, each embodying a different type of dream. Morpheus was the master of shaping dreams into the forms of humans, often appearing in the dreams of kings and heroes to convey messages from the gods. Phobter, Eiklos, on the other hand, brought nightmares, transforming into animals and monstrous creatures to terrify dreamers in their sleep. Phantasos was the creator of fantastical and illusory dreams, filling the minds of mortals with images of inanimate objects, landscapes, and surreal scenarios. Together, the Oneiroi ruled the domain of dreams, influencing the thoughts and experiences of mortals as they slumbered, often blurring the lines between reality and illusion. Oasis, known as the personification of distress and misery, embodies the harshest aspects of human suffering in Greek mythology. She is one of the dark children of Nyx, the goddess of night, and her presence signifies the weight of sorrow and hardship that can descend upon a person's life. Oasis is often portrayed as a shadowy, sorrowful figure, her very essence wrapped in gloom and despair. Her influence is felt in times of great personal loss, chronic pain, or overwhelming sadness, where the burdens of life seem insurmountable. Though she is a figure of immense negativity, Oasis serves as a reminder of the inescapable nature of suffering in the human experience. Nemesis is the personification of retribution, embodying the principle that no deed, whether good or evil, goes unanswered in the cosmic order. As a goddess of divine justice, she ensures that arrogance and hubris do not go unchecked, bringing down those who would overstep their bounds. Nemesis is often depicted with a stern countenance, sometimes wielding a sword or scales. In Greek mythology, Nemesis plays a critical role in maintaining the moral fabric of the universe. She is not merely a punisher but a force of balance, ensuring that mortals and gods alike are held accountable for their actions. Her retribution is not born out of cruelty but out of a need to restore order when it has been disrupted. In this way, Nemesis serves as a reminder that the universe is governed by laws that cannot be broken without consequence, and that justice, though it may be delayed, is inevitable. Moros was the embodiment of doom, a powerful and inevitable force in Greek mythology. As the personification of impending death, he held sway over the fates of mortals, driving them inexorably toward their destined end. Unlike other deities or spirits, Moros did not offer comfort or guidance. Instead, he represented the inescapable reality of mortality. His presence was a constant reminder that no one could outrun their fate, no matter how hard they tried. It was also said that Moros granted mortals the grim ability to foresee their death, a knowledge that could drive them to despair or resignation. This foresight, however, did not come with the power to change what was foreseen, only to acknowledge it as an unalterable truth. Moros was not a figure of active malice, but rather a symbol of the natural order, ensuring that every life would reach its inevitable conclusion. In this way, Moros personified the darker aspects of fate, the certainty of death that loomed over every living being. In Greek mythology, Momus was the embodiment of mockery, blame, ridicule, and harsh criticism. A daimon, spirit, rather than a fully fledged god, Momus was notorious for his sharp tongue and biting humor. His role was to scrutinize the actions of both gods and mortals, finding flaws and weaknesses wherever he could. In his relentless pursuit of fault-finding, he became a symbol of unrelenting critique and the destructive nature of mockery. Momus did not spare even the most powerful deities from his ridicule, which eventually led to his downfall. Zeus, the king of the gods, grew tired of Momus' constant criticism and mockery of the divine beings, expelling him from Mount Olympus. Banished to the mortal world, Momus continued his role as the eternal critic, forever embodying the darker side of wit and judgment. The Moirai, or Fates, were the powerful personifications of destiny in Greek mythology. These three sisters, Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos, held the threads of life for every mortal and god, determining their fates with impartiality and finality. Clotho, the spinner, was responsible for spinning the thread of life, symbolizing the beginning of a person's existence. Lachesis, the allottor, measured the length of the thread, determining the span of each individual's life and their share of fortune. Atropos, the inevitable, was the one who cut the thread, signifying the end of life. Together, they governed the inescapable destiny of all beings, making them some of the most feared and revered figures in the mythological pantheon. The Charis were fearsome female spirits in Greek mythology, personifying violent and gruesome deaths. These terrifying daimons were drawn to battlefields, where they hovered over dying warriors, eagerly awaiting their demise. The Charis were not the agents of death, but rather the harbingers of it, embodying the carnage and bloodshed of war. They would swoop down on those who were fatally wounded, delighting in the chaos and horror of the battlefield. Their presence was a grim reminder of the inevitability of violent death in a world where warfare was a constant reality. Although the Charis did not have the power to kill, their appearance signaled the inescapable fate of those they haunted. Giaia was the embodiment of sloth, idleness, and laziness in Greek mythology. This lesser-known daimon represented the state of inactivity and the avoidance of effort. Giaia was often depicted as a lethargic figure, embodying the human tendency toward procrastination and the refusal to engage in productive activity. In mythology, she was said to dwell in the underworld, a fitting residence for a spirit who personified the inertia and inactivity that could lead to a metaphorical death of the soul. Giaia was a reminder of the dangers of giving in to laziness, as it could lead to stagnation and decay in both the physical and moral senses. Hypnos was the Greek god of sleep and the personification of sleep itself. Born to Nyx, night, and Erebus, darkness. Hypnos was a gentle and calming deity who brought rest and relief to mortals and gods alike. He resided in the underworld, where he lived in a dark cave, surrounded by poppies and other sleep-inducing plants. The river Lethe, which caused forgetfulness, flowed through his domain, further enhancing the peaceful and tranquil atmosphere of his abode. Hypnos was often depicted as a young man with wings on his temples or shoulders, gently carrying a horn or a branch dipped in the waters of Lethe to sprinkle sleep upon the weary. Hypnos played a significant role in many myths, often working closely with his brother Thanatos. The two were inseparable, representing the close relationship between sleep and death, with sleep being viewed as a temporary state akin to death. Hypnos was also the husband of Pasithea, the goddess of relaxation and hallucination, and the father of the Oneiroi, the gods of dreams. His soothing influence was seen as a necessary balance to the rigors of life, providing a respite from the trials of the day. Hypnos' gentle and peaceful nature made him a beloved figure, embodying the restorative power of sleep in the Greek understanding of the world. Styx, one of the eldest daughters of Oceanus and Tethys, and she was the wife of the Titan Pallas and the mother of Zeus, Nike, Kratos, and Bia, was known as the formidable personification of hatred in Greek mythology. She was more than just an abstract concept. Styx was also a river that marked the boundary between the living world and the underworld, serving as a crucial element in the afterlife. The gods themselves revered Styx, for her waters were sacred and binding. Any oath sworn upon the river Styx was unbreakable, with dire consequences for those who dared to violate it. This duality, Styx as both a river and a goddess, represented the immense power and fear that hatred could wield, cutting across realms and affecting gods and mortals alike. Styx's role in mythology extended beyond her function as a river. She was known for her fierce loyalty to Zeus during the Titanomachy, the great war between the Olympian gods and the Titans. In reward for her support, Zeus granted her children special honors and decreed that all oaths taken by the gods be sworn upon her name. In the vast pantheon of Greek mythology, Hybris stands as the embodiment of insolence, hubris, and outrageous behavior. This goddess or personified spirit, daimona, was more than just a symbol of pride. She represented the reckless and destructive arrogance that led mortals to challenge the gods and defy social norms. Her influence was seen in acts of violence, unbridled ambition, and the disrespect of sacred laws. The Greeks feared Hybris, as her presence often preceded a downfall, a reminder that excessive pride and defiance against the natural order would inevitably lead to divine retribution. In Roman mythology, she was known as Petulantia, carrying with her the same dangerous qualities that threatened the stability of the world. Menoetius is a lesser-known but powerful figure in Greek mythology, representing the personification of violent anger and hubristic pride. As one of the ancient Greek demons, or spirits embodying human qualities, Menoetius reflects the dangerous and self-destructive nature of unchecked rage. His name, meaning doomed might or ruinous strength, encapsulates his essence as a force that leads to downfall. According to myth, Menoetius was one of the Titans, a child of Iapetus and Clymene, and the brother of Prometheus, Epimetheus, and Atlas. Unlike his brothers, who played crucial roles in the mythological narratives of humanity, Menoetius' tale is one of defiance and destruction. He was struck down by Zeus and cast into Tartarus for his arrogance and violent temper during the Titanomachy, the great war between the Titans and the Olympian gods. Hemera, the goddess of daylight, was a radiant figure in Greek mythology, symbolizing the bright and clear aspect of the day. Born from Erebus, darkness, and Nyx, night, she was part of the primordial deities that personified fundamental aspects of the world. Hemera's role was essential, as she brought light to the world each day, dispelling the shadows of her mother, Nyx. Her existence represented the natural cycle of day and night, a dance between light and darkness that maintained the balance of the cosmos. Unlike many other deities who were worshipped through elaborate rituals, Hemera's presence was more subtle, woven into the everyday experience of life. Gaia, the personified spirit of old age, was a malevolent figure in Greek mythology, representing the inevitable decline that comes with the passage of time. Spawned by Nyx, the goddess of night, Gaia was depicted as a shriveled ancient man, embodying the weariness and frailty of advanced age. His presence was a stark reminder of mortality and the transient nature of youth and vitality. In contrast to Hebe, the goddess of youth, who symbolized renewal and eternal beauty, Gaia represented the unavoidable progression towards decay and death. The Greeks viewed old age with a mixture of respect and fear, recognizing it as a natural part of life, but also dreading the loss of strength, health, and beauty that Gaia brought. Euphrosyne, one of the three Charites, Graces, was the goddess and personification of good cheer, joy, and mirth in Greek mythology. Her name, derived from the Greek word euphrosynos, meaning merriment, perfectly captured her essence. Euphrosyne, along with her sisters Aglaia and Talia, were attendants of Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty and love. Together, the Charites were responsible for spreading joy, beauty, and grace throughout the world, ensuring that moments of happiness and goodwill were never far away. Eros, the embodiment of love, passion, and fertility, stands as one of the most evocative figures in Greek mythology. In the earliest traditions, Eros is depicted as a beautiful winged youth, a symbol of the powerful and often capricious nature of love. He is armed with a bow and arrows, tools that allow him to strike the hearts of gods and mortals alike, inciting desire and affection. The imagery of Eros with a wreath for victory signifies love's triumph over all, while the lyre represents the harmony love can bring to the world. Sometimes, he is shown holding a hare, an animal associated with fertility, or a whip, symbolizing the sometimes painful sting of unrequited love. Over time, the portrayal of Eros evolved, reflecting changing views of love and desire. In some later myths, he is depicted as a mischievous, childlike figure, a precursor to the Roman Cupid. However, in his original, more primordial form, Eros was a powerful cosmic force. According to Hesiod's Theogony, he was one of the primordial deities, born from chaos, the void from which all things emerged. This ancient aspect of Eros underscores his role not just as a god of romantic love, but as a fundamental force driving creation and the continuation of life itself. Eris, the personification of strife and discord, is a figure whose influence is both feared and inevitable. Known as Discordia in Roman mythology, Eris is often depicted as a goddess who revels in chaos, sowing seeds of conflict wherever she goes. According to Hesiod, she is one of the eldest goddesses, born of Nyx, the goddess of night, a lineage that ties her to the darker, more destructive aspects of existence. Eris plays a crucial role in the events leading to the Trojan War, as it was she who, uninvited to the wedding of Peleus and Thetis, tossed the golden apple inscribed with "to the fairest," sparking the vanity-fueled quarrel among the goddesses Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite. Eris's connection to Ares, the god of war, varies in different myths. Some traditions suggest that she is his sister, a fitting companion for the brutal and violent nature of war. Together, they represent the inevitability of conflict and the destruction that follows in its wake. Despite her often negative connotations, Eris also embodies the necessary tension and competition that can lead to growth and change. In this way, she is a complex figure, representing both the destructive and generative aspects of discord. Epiphron, the personification of prudence, embodies the virtues of shrewdness, thoughtfulness, and careful consideration. Unlike the more prominent deities, Epiphron is not a widely known figure in Greek mythology, yet his influence is deeply ingrained in the human experience. He represents the kind of wisdom that comes from foresight and careful planning, the ability to navigate life's challenges with sagacity and care. In a world where impulsive decisions and reckless actions can lead to ruin, Epiphron's presence is a reminder of the value of prudence and the importance of weighing one's options before acting. Helios, the personification of mercy, compassion, and pity, is a figure revered for her role in tempering the harshness of life. Known as the counterpart to the Roman goddess Clementia, Helios was worshipped by those seeking relief from suffering and harsh judgment. According to the geographer Pausanias, Helios was, among all the gods, the most useful to human life in all its vicissitudes. Her very essence embodies the grace and kindness that allows humanity to endure and overcome the trials of life, offering solace and forgiveness where it is most needed. The worship of Helios in ancient Greece highlights the importance of mercy in both divine and human affairs. She was often invoked in times of need, especially when individuals or communities sought clemency or a reprieve from suffering. Unlike other deities who might demand strict justice or retribution, Helios represents the softer, more humane side of the divine, one that understands the imperfections of human nature and offers a path to redemption through compassion. Dolus, the personification of trickery, deception, and cunning, is a figure closely associated with the more duplicitous aspects of human nature. As an apprentice of the Titan Prometheus, Dolus learned the art of craftiness and the ability to deceive. His role as a companion to the Pseudologoi, the spirits of lies, further cements his position as a master of deceit. Dolus is often portrayed as a clever and sly figure, capable of outwitting even the most astute individuals. Deimos, whose name translates to dread, is the embodiment of fear in Greek mythology. As the son of Ares, the god of war, and Aphrodite, the goddess of love, Deimos inherited traits from both his parents, representing the emotional turmoil that precedes battle. He is often depicted alongside his twin brother, Phobos, who personifies the terror that grips soldiers during the chaos of war. Deimos' presence was believed to instill a deep sense of dread in the hearts of warriors, causing them to tremble before the impending bloodshed. His influence extended beyond the battlefield, as he symbolized the anticipation of fear, the anxiety, and the dread of what was to come. In myths and artistic depictions, Deimos is typically portrayed as a shadowy figure, often accompanying his father, Ares, in the thick of battle. The ancient Greeks viewed him not just as an abstract concept, but as a tangible force that could affect the outcome of wars. Soldiers would invoke Deimos in their prayers, seeking either to ward off his influence or to channel his power against their enemies. The terror he embodied was not just physical but also psychological, representing the inner turmoil that could overwhelm even the bravest of warriors. Apate is the goddess and personification of deceit, a cunning force born from the primordial goddess Nyx, who represents the night. As the daughter of Nyx, Apate inherited her mother's association with darkness, which she wielded to spread lies and trickery. She was a subtle and pervasive force, often working in the shadows to manipulate mortals and gods alike. Apate's influence could be found in the twisting of truths, the spreading of falsehoods, and the deceitful schemes that could lead to ruin. Her role in mythology was to embody the concept of deception, making her a feared and respected figure among the gods. Thanatos is the personification of death in Greek mythology, a somber figure whose role was to guide the souls of the deceased to the underworld. He is the son of Nyx, the primordial goddess of night, and the brother of Hypnos, the god of sleep, with whom he shares a close and often intertwined relationship. Thanatos was depicted as a gentle and peaceful figure, a contrast to the often violent and fearsome nature of death in other mythologies. His presence was a reminder of the inevitability of death, and he was seen as a merciful guide who ensured that the transition from life to death was smooth and painless. In Greek mythology, Anadia embodies the ruthless and unforgiving aspects of human nature. She is the personification of shamelessness, a force that drives individuals to act without regard for the moral consequences of their actions. Anadia is often depicted as a companion to Hybris, the spirit of arrogance and overconfidence, highlighting their close relationship in promoting destructive behavior. Together, they encouraged mortals and gods alike to disregard honor and decency, leading to acts of cruelty, betrayal, and moral decay. Anadia's influence was a reminder of the darker sides of human nature, where empathy and mercy are absent and only cold, unyielding resolve remains. Urea are the personifications of the mountains, the towering and majestic formations that pierce the sky. Like the mountains themselves, the Urea are ancient and enduring, representing the raw, untamed aspects of the natural world. Born from Gaia, the earth, they stand as her children, embodying the strength and permanence of the earth itself. Each mountain was thought to have its own Urea, making them not just geographical features, but sacred beings with their own distinct presence and spirit. The Greeks revered the mountains as places of divine residence, often associating them with the gods and seeing them as the thresholds between the mortal world and the divine. In Greek mythology, Chronos embodies strength, might, power, and sovereign rule. As the son of the Titan Pallas and the Oceanid Styx, Chronos is often depicted as a fearsome enforcer of divine will. His name, which literally translates to strength or power, reflects his role as the embodiment of raw physical force and authority. Unlike the more well-known gods who held sway over specific aspects of the natural world or human experience, Chronos' power was more abstract, representing the very essence of strength and dominance. He was not a god who ruled over mortals or commanded natural forces, but was instead a personification, a living embodiment of the concept of strength itself. Chronos, along with his three siblings, Nike, victory, Bia, force, and Zealous, rivalry, served the mighty Zeus as his loyal enforcers. These four siblings were winged, angel-like beings who stood ever vigilant at the throne of the king of the gods, ready to carry out his will. Their role was crucial in maintaining the order of the cosmos, ensuring that the commands of Zeus were obeyed without question. Chronos, in particular, was often depicted as a stern, imposing figure, embodying the unyielding power of Zeus' authority. His presence in mythological stories serves as a reminder of the might and control that the gods held over both the mortal and divine realms, a force that could not be easily challenged or defied. Pontus is the ancient Greek personification of the sea, one of the primordial deities known as the protogenoi, who existed before the Olympian gods. He represents the vast, uncharted waters that surrounded the known world, embodying both the sea's nurturing and terrifying aspects. Pontus was born from Gaia, the earth, in the primordial era when the universe was still in its formative stages. Some accounts suggest that his father was Ether, the god of heavenly light, but more commonly, he is considered the direct offspring of Gaia alone. As a primordial deity, Pontus was not just the sea itself, but the very essence of the ocean's mysteries, its depths, and its power to give and take life. In mythology, Pontus fathered several important sea deities, including Nereus, the old man of the sea, and Thaumas, the personification of the wonders of the sea. Ether, in Greek mythology, is the personification of light and the upper sky, embodying the pure and bright air that the gods breathed. As a primordial deity, Ether existed from the dawn of creation, born from the union of Erebus, darkness, and Nyx, night. He is often depicted as a shining figure, representing the highest, most exalted part of the heavens. Ether's domain was the bright, clear air above the clouds, distinct from the lower, murkier atmosphere where mortals lived. His presence was essential to the existence of life, as he was seen as the source of all light and the medium through which the sun, moon, and stars shone. Ether's significance extends beyond just a physical representation of the sky. He also symbolizes the divine essence that permeates the cosmos. In ancient Greek cosmology, ether was believed to be the substance that filled the universe, an element of purity and clarity that was untouchable by the darkness below. Chronos, often confused with the Titan Cronus due to the similarity of their names, is the personification of time in Greek mythology. Unlike Chronos, who was a ruling titan associated with the harvest and often depicted with a sickle. Chronos represented the abstract and all-encompassing concept of time. He was often visualized as an old, wise man, with a long beard and a scythe, symbolizing the relentless passage of time and its ability to bring about change and decay. Chronos was not a god with a distinct mythology, but rather an allegorical figure who represented the inevitable progression of time, which governs all existence. During the Renaissance, the figure of Chronos became more closely associated with the imagery of Father Time, blending the ancient Greek concept with more modern interpretations. This gave rise to the common depiction of Chronos as a figure who oversees the cycles of life, wielding the harvesting scythe that symbolizes both creation and destruction. Gaia, also known as Giaia, is the primordial personification of the earth in Greek mythology. She is one of the most significant deities in the Greek pantheon, revered as the mother of all life and the foundation upon which the entire cosmos rests. Gaia emerged from chaos, the void from which all things were born, and she is considered one of the protogenoi, the first gods and goddesses who came into existence. As the embodiment of the earth, Gaia gave birth to many of the key figures in Greek mythology, including Uranus, the sky, the Titans, the giants, and even the seas and mountains. Her role as the Earth Mother made her a central figure in many myths, particularly those involving creation and the natural world. Gaia's influence extends beyond mere physical creation. She is also seen as a nurturing and protective force, providing sustenance and stability to all living creatures. In many myths, she intervenes in the affairs of gods and mortals alike, often acting as a mediator or protector of justice. Despite her nurturing aspects, Gaia could also be vengeful, especially when her children were wronged. This duality in her nature, both nurturing and fierce, reflects the Greeks' understanding of the earth as both a provider of life and a powerful, sometimes unpredictable force. Uranus is the personification of the sky in Greek mythology, one of the primordial deities who came into existence at the dawn of creation. He is often depicted as the husband of Gaia, the earth, with whom he fathered many significant figures in Greek mythology, including the Titans, the Cyclopes, and the Centaurs. Uranus represented the vast, encompassing sky that stretched over the earth, providing it with light and protection. In Hesiod's Theogony, Uranus emerges from Gaia herself, making him both her son and consort, symbolizing the inseparable connection between earth and sky, a union that produced the first generation of gods and laid the foundation for the world's structure. Ananke, in the Orphic tradition of Greek mythology, embodies the forces of inevitability, compulsion, and necessity. Born self-formed at the dawn of time, Ananke is one of the most ancient and powerful primordial deities. She is often depicted holding a spindle, symbolizing the unbreakable thread of destiny that she controls, weaving the fates of gods and mortals alike. Her presence is an inescapable force, dictating the natural order of the cosmos, the unalterable laws of existence that even the gods must obey. Ananke's influence is profound and absolute, a reminder that some aspects of life are beyond the control of both mortals and deities. Ananke is often paired with Chronos, the god of time, who is her consort in some traditions. Together, they represent the inexorable passage of time and the inevitable unfolding of events. Ananke and Chronos are the primal forces that set the universe into motion, creating the cosmic order from the primordial chaos. Erebus, a primordial deity, embodies the very essence of darkness in Greek mythology. Born from chaos, the ancient void from which all things originated, Erebus is one of the earliest entities to emerge in the Greek cosmogony. His presence is felt in the deep shadows of the underworld, a realm where light is scarce and mystery abounds. Erebus is not only the personification of darkness, but also the god who governs the shadowy regions of the underworld, where souls pass through after death. His existence is entwined with the very concept of darkness itself, an omnipresent force that stands in stark contrast to the light of the world above. Erebus is married to Nyx, the personification of night, making them a powerful duo in the Greek pantheon. Together, they symbolize the ever-present darkness that envelopes the world each night, a reminder of the ancient forces that existed long before the gods of Olympus. Tartarus is a figure of dual significance in Greek mythology, both a primordial deity and a place of unimaginable depth and darkness. As a god, Tartarus personifies the abyss, the deep and terrifying void that exists beneath even the underworld. According to Hesiod's theogony, Tartarus is one of the primordial forces, emerging alongside chaos, Gaia, earth, and Eros, love. His dominion is not just a location but a concept, an eternal, inescapable pit where the most wicked are condemned to suffer. The depths of Tartarus are so profound that it is said an anvil dropped from the earth would take 9 days to reach the bottom. As a place, Tartarus serves as a prison for the most fearsome enemies of the gods, including the Titans after their defeat in the Titanomachy. The realm of Tartarus is a place of unending torment, reserved for those who have committed the gravest sins against the gods. Nyx, the primordial goddess of the night, is one of the most powerful and enigmatic figures in Greek mythology. Born from chaos, she is among the first beings to emerge in the universe, embodying the darkness that falls upon the world as night descends. Her presence is so formidable that even Zeus, the king of the Olympian gods, is said to have feared her power. Nyx is often depicted as a shadowy figure, cloaked in black, who rides across the sky, bringing the night with her. Her dominion over the night makes her a goddess of mystery, fear, and awe, as she governs the time when the world is shrouded in darkness and uncertainty. Nyx's influence extends beyond the night itself, as she is the mother of several other powerful deities, many of whom represent aspects of the human experience associated with darkness and the unknown. Her children include Hypnos, sleep, Thanatos, death, and the Moirai fates, among others. In some myths, Nyx is said to have laid a cosmic egg, from which the earth, sky, and sea were born, further emphasizing her role as a fundamental force in the creation of the cosmos. Nyx's relationship with Erebus, the god of darkness, strengthens her connection to the night, making her one of the most revered and feared deities in Greek mythology. Chaos is the primordial force that represents the void, the original state of existence before the cosmos came into being. In Greek mythology, chaos is not merely a disordered state, but rather the yawning gap, an empty chasm from which all things emerged. From chaos sprang the first gods and the basic elements of the universe: Gaia, earth; Tartarus, the abyss; Erebus, darkness; and Nyx, night. Chaos is often depicted as a formless and boundless entity, embodying the potential for creation and the raw, undifferentiated matter from which the ordered world would eventually be shaped. The concept of chaos underscores the Greek understanding of the cosmos as emerging from an initial state of nothingness, where all things were possible but nothing yet defined. Primordials are incredibly powerful, but they're just one of the many formidable races that exist across the mythological world. I've researched and gathered the strongest races from various mythologies, and you can check out that video on the left. If you're curious about the leaders, the alphas of each of these races, click the video on the right. If you enjoyed this deep dive into mythology, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on future content.